across the board, right? You sit down, you strap in, you hold on, you put your sticks in the water, you get a little pressure on, you try and keep your boat moving forward. But the strategic element to it, the stylistic element to it, that can vary so differently from athlete to athlete. We'll have to see what happens coming up in the Heat 2 right now. They are off the blocks. This is the men's Open F single. Whitney, who do we have in this race?
Well, I'm so glad you asked. Lane 1, we have Chinook. Lane 2, Virginia. Lane 3, Texas Rowing Center. Lane 4, Nashville. Lane 5, New Orleans. And Lane 6, Atlanta. And again, we'll give them a few strokes to get off the line here before we hit the 500. So maybe 200 meters in, we're about 50 seconds on the clock. And they are just starting to separate out here. So as soon as we get a camera angle on that, we will give you some better margins. But you can see lane 6 out there, Atlanta, Dan Van Dresser out there, sort of a dark horse out there, silhouetted against the rocks there, dark boat, dark unisuit, just maybe a little bit of red and white. But then we will look over at lane 3, that is Texas Rowing Center. Lane 1, Chinook, again, never to be overlooked, followed by lane 2, Virginia, and then we will scoot back to lane 4, that is Nashville's George Shea, also rows with his wife, Jen, so kind of a fun husband-wife team, George and Jen Shea, do a lot of rowing together down in Nashville. So right now, though, we are looking at lane 3 right now, Texas Rowing Center, who has perhaps taken the lead, but again, we are not going to look away too long from lane 6, that is Atlanta, and lane 1, Chinook. So our lead positions are spread out just a little bit, so they will have to keep an eye out on each other. Again, first, second, and third move on to the grand final. So again, as we've said before, we don't know whether they will end up fighting for lanes or if they will just try to squeeze in to the grand final there.
Now, Whitney, when you're in a sprint, we'll go ahead and call it like a Cox boat, whether it's a Cox 4 or whether it's a Cox 8, what is your favorite sprinting sequence? What does your last 250 look like? If you had like ideal conditions, ideal crew, what are you calling?
Ooh, well, I love a little intensity, and that depends. I've actually had sprints that go from 600 meters if I have to, from 400 meters, and from 200 meters. So I like to go in stages. I have my crews sit up just a little bit taller first. So we're going to sit up, we're going to bring the rate up, and I never say up because that makes things a little bit frantic. So I say we're going to shift up, we're going to loosen up, we're going to lengthen out, and we go up a beat or two. And if it goes one beat, that's fine, as long as we get a little bit faster. But I'm going to have them start to sit up a little bit more as we edge towards the finish line, and we're just going to punch the hips a little bit more and draw the boat underneath us a little bit quicker. So instead of rushing forward, we're pulling the boat in. So that's what we're going to try to focus on a little bit. And that's what we are seeing, I think, here right now from lane 3, Texas Rowing Center doing a great job, not bringing it up too much, but just enough to make sure that he secures his place in the grand final in that first place position.
And here comes lane 6 from Atlanta. That is Dan Van Dresser coming through the line second to also punch his ticket into the finals. But look at this, like, push for third, right? Man, I'm going to call it unofficially. I think it's going to be Richard McDonough from Chinook, but we'll have to wait for Time Team to post the official results. But that was a really close finish. But also take a look at this one now coming to the line. This is going to be lanes 4 and 5. You see lane 5, that was Kevin Thompson from New Orleans just looking over to see where it was. That's going to be a second photo finish in the same event. So I'm almost calling 2 photo finishes in one heat.
I know, that's absolutely right, isn't it? Very well done, George Shea from Nashville and